What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be looking at the Open Great League once again, and the team that we're going to be taking a look at today is Shadow Quagsire, Shadow Drapion, and Shadow Scizor. Yes, this is a triple Shadow team, but that's not the only unique thing about this team. If you'll notice, all of these Pokemon only have a single weakness. Shadow Quagsire only has one weakness, and that is a double weakness to grass. Shadow Drapion only has one weakness, which is a weakness to ground, and Shadow Scizor only has one weakness, and it is a double weakness to fire. Now, both of the Pokemon in the back kind of cover Quagsire's weakness, so we're running it an ABC style team with Drapion as the safe swap. Before we hop into the battles, I want to say a special thank you to the expert trainer members on this channel, Benny Hemlock, Dr. Green Mustache, and Sohan Patil, as well as the legend trainer members on this channel, Big Burden, Andrew Pitton, Moosechute, Noodleman, Speedster, Estros, and Liminal Lagomorph. So without further ado, let's hop into some battles. You might notice that my background's a little bit different. I'm actually on vacation recording these battles, but into the first match, we've got a good lead. Shadow Quagsire into a Clawitzer. The opponent safe switches into a Primeape, and I actually don't have a great response for a Primeape. So I'm just going to chip with an Aqua Tail, and then I'm going to overfarm a little bit and catch when they get to the back-to-back Rage Fist. And fortunately, that's exactly when my opponent's going to throw. Rage Fist is resisted here, but now they have 4 Karate Chops worth of energy, so they're always going to be able to outpace me to another move, and this could always be a potential close combat, so I will respect this. I have, however, already grabbed one shield from my opponent, so I'm always willing to match shields in this matchup in order to maintain switch advantage. I really would like to have my Shadow Quagsire against their Clawitzer if I can, if I'm going to give up shields in the first place. Scizor, I mean, would be fine there because Poison Sting is resisted if I had 2 shields left in play, but otherwise not. We are, however, able to maintain switch. Back in comes the Clawitzer. Clawitzer now will be met with an Aqua Tail, and they're probably going to have to take a couple of these before they end up throwing their energy, depending on how much they want to overfarm here. They end up catching the second Aqua Tail onto a Mandibuzz, which is a pretty nice play, but that allows me to come in with my Quagsire, connect with a super effective Stone Edge before they're even able to get to a charge move. My opponent is on Air Slash here, so their energy generation is a little bit slower. They underestimate the energy generation of Quagsire. We get to an Aqua Tail as well. That picks up the knockout on the Mandibuzz, and now we have our Quagsire, which will take a hit from the Clawitzer here. It will pick up the knockout with the Earthquake, but now we have Scizor and the ability to catch. So what we're going to do here is we're going to come in with our Scizor. Scizor is looking for the farm. We aren't able to get to a Trailblaze before my opponent gets to a charge move, so I end up switching into my Drapion, trying for the catch. I'm unsuccessful, but that's okay because they're forced to throw energy. Poison Sting was resisted, and now here comes a Trailblaze. This is neutral damage from a Shadow Scizor. It's going to pick up the knockout, and we are able to take that win. Into next match, we've got Quagsire into Stunfisk, another good lead. They're going to switch out of this matchup into a Golisopod, and once again, I don't have a great response, but this time I can't chip, so I'm going to come in with my Drapion, and then I'm baiting with an Aqua Tail, knowing that my opponent knows this is not a good matchup, and they have the ability to flip switch, and we actually do grab that shield. I'm going to commit the shield right back, because they're at the back-to-back charge moves, and I know I can live 1, so I'm going to shield 1, live 1, and then connect with a Crunch, and hope that Stab Shadow Crunch is enough to pick up the knockout on the Golisopod here. It's going to be close. Is this enough to pick up the knockout? It's not. The opponent lives on 1 HP. They get the Fury Cutter farm down, and I don't think I can Mudshot farm them down here, so I'm going to come in with the Shadow Scizor, get the Bullet Punch farm down before they can get to a 3rd charge move. And what's going to come in here? It's the Stunfisk. But now, because we have a 2 Bullet Punch head start, we're able to outpace to the Trailblaze. This is super effective damage. My opponent actually shields that, even though they know we have a Quagsire. Once again, I overfarm, catch when they get to the back-to-back moves, and Mud Bomb will connect on the Quagsire. In comes an Araquanid, but this Araquanid has no shield. I'm going to throw the Stone Edge as they're getting to the Bubble Beam on the CMP tie. This will hit for massive super effective damage, and now I will just let this Bubble Beam go through because I think Shadow Scizor is my win con. And of course they will Bubble Beam and get the full Bug Bite farm down, but I can overfarm slightly here, go for the knockout with the Night Slash, and then I just have to make sure I can outpace the Stunfisk, which I think I can to the Trailblaze before they get to the back-to-back. They're at 1 charge move here. They're 1 away from their 2nd charge move, so I'm going to throw 1 to maximize my damage and then throw on the CMP tie so that I get that Bullet Punch through Trailblaze. It's super effective damage, and it doesn't pick up the knockout. Oh man, the Stunfisk lives on 1 HP, so just barely gonna lose that game. Wow, that was a close end game. Into next match, we've got more of a neutral lead, but we've got two better answers in the back, so I'm actually going to pivot into my Drapion, knowing that I can outpace to the first crunch before they get to a Sparkling Aria by a single turn. Crunch will connect, that does about 50%, and I know I can live a Sparkling Aria as well. Their Psywaves being resisted in this matchup are absolutely massive for Drapion. They're actually going to connect with the with the Sparkling Aria and then come in with a Clawitzer, but Clawitzer will be met with the onslaught of the super effective Aqua Tails. Here comes Aqua Tail number 1, here comes Aqua Tail number 2. This will probably put the Clawitzer into the yellow health range, almost in the red actually, and they're going to throw right away, which is really nice. They haven't really overfarmed very much in this matchup, and we can now get an energy lead on Quagsire, which is absolutely massive. No matter what they do here, I'm committing to the farm down, because if I can come out with a Stone Edge loaded for that Lapras, there's nothing they can do. So they connect with the Earthquake, but they realize that, so they pivot. They don't allow me to get the farm down into a Dusclops in the back, and I chip with an Aqua Tail, and now in comes Scizor. Scizor, of course, does have super effective Night Slash here, but I will grab a shield from my opponent, but if they decide to commit the shield here, because I connected with that Aqua Tail, I will be able to just fully bullet punch farm them down, even if they are able to make it to a second charge move here, which I don't think they should. Here comes the second Shadow Punch. Are they able to make it to a third? They are not, and now we have an energy lead, which is super nice. I'm going to look for the catch here, overfarming as much as I can. I throw the Night Slash. My opponent's still able to make that catch. Really nice play by my opponent, but now I just have to watch. I actually get the boost, but I'm pivoting into my Quagsire, forcing them to throw their energy because I was getting pretty close to a charge move. They throw the Sparkling Aria. Now the question is, can I get the Bullet Punch farm down before they get to another one? And the answer is yes, and we are able to take that win. Into next match, neutral lead, Battle of the Mud Boys. We got Quagsire into Swampert. The good thing here is we actually win the zeros, because one Hydro Cannon from a non-Shadow Swampert doesn't quite put us in farm down range for the Swampert, unless that's probably like the 2-shield scenario. But if we play out the zeros, I can just go for back-to-back Aqua Tail, and I have a slight pacing advantage by a single Mud Shot. The pacing on Aqua Tail is 5-4 as opposed to Hydro Cannon, which is 5-5. That actually picks up the knockout on the Quagsire. In comes a Talonflame, and I do not have a good answer for Talonflame in the back, so I'm staying in this matchup. I will be able to chip with an Aqua Tail or grab a shield from my opponent, and I will grab that shield. Fortunately, I still have Drapion in the back, which has access to Aqua Tail as well, and because I've grabbed that shield, I'm always willing to match shields in this matchup. They go straight Flame Charge here. The good thing here is that Flame Charge is more expensive, so the pacing is 3-2-3, I believe. So I will be able to always outpace here. My opponent is at a second Flame Charge, but now they're on their 3 cycles. So I'm going to go, actually no I'm not, because in comes Credilli. I pivot instantly into my Shadow Scizor. Shadow Scizor will connect with the Night Slash. The only thing I can't do here is KO this Credilli. So I'm actually going to make a pretty interesting play. I have to let this Rock Tomb go because, you know, it's neutral damage and I have no shields. But I'm going to leave them in 1 Poison Sting range and then stop tapping. And the reason I do this is I don't want to give farm to that Talonflame. So I'm going to let them pick up the knockout with the Rock Tomb. And now in comes Drapion. I have an energy lead. I can get to the Aqua Tail. This is super effective damage. It's shadow damage. Is it enough to pick up the knockout on the Talonflame? It's not, but they're on their 3 cycle, so able to make it to Aqua Tail number 2, and this will pick up the knockout on the Talonflame, and we are able to take that win. Into the next match, we've got Quagsire into Furret. Now this is a bit of a difficult lead, but we have kind of 2 better answers in the back realistically. One that resists Sucker Punch and Trailblaze, and one that resists both Swift and Trailblaze. So it's maybe not the best idea to stay in this matchup. However, I am playing it out a little bit. I know if I shield a Trailblaze correctly here, I can at least grab a shield back from my opponent, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go for the Aqua Tail, hoping that this grabs a shield, and then pivot into my Drapion. Somehow, my opponent throws right away, and I end up getting the catch, and the Swift will connect, does about 50%, and in comes a Fortress. So this is actually a really nice thing to bait out, because Shadow Scizor does not have a good matchup into Fortress. So I will connect with 1 crunch. Can I get to crunch number 2? The answer is no. My opponent will connect with the Sand Tomb before I get there, and that's okay. Sand Tomb picks up the knockout, and because the pacing of Fortress is just so slow. I can come in with a Quagsire, make it to an Aqua Tail. This will do some solid chip, but it probably won't be enough to pick up the knockout here. Aqua Tail does connect, puts them in the red health range. Are they going to make it to a charge move? They are, but I will just let this go. They're low enough now that Scizor, I think, can sweep this end game. Sandtomb connects, doesn't pick up the knockout. I'm pivoting into my Scizor. It's a Regidrago in the back that is absolutely massive. Their Dragon Breaths are resisted here, whereas our Bullet Punches and Night Slashes are neutral. I will still shield this up because I have the shield. I may as well use it. They're not going to get to another charge move elsewhere because I'm always going to be able to outpace, especially if the Ferret comes back in. I can make it to a Night Slash before they make it to another charge move, and this game is over because I can outpace the Regidrago to a charge move, and I make it to the Night Slash right before they get to their charge move. Night Slash from this range should be enough to pick up the knockout. No, they live on 1 HP, so I'm forced to catch onto my Quagsire, and that is a game-winning catch because Bullet Punch, it's a 2-turn move. It will be able to pick up the knockout here, but no, I get 2-turn lag and I lose the game. Wow, that is incredible. Thank you, Pokemon Go. Okay, into the next match. Great lead. Shadow Quagsire into Steelix. The opponent safe switches into Annihilate. I once again don't have a great response here, so I'm going to connect with an Aqua Tail, grab a shield, and then come in with Shadow Scizor. Bullet Punches, of course, doing the same amount of damage as counter in this matchup, except they generate energy just a little bit quicker. So here comes the Night Slash, grabbing a shield from my opponent. It looks like counter is actually doing more damage than the Bullet Punches, which is pretty unfortunate. And now I have given up switch, but I'm going to come in with my Drapion, hoping they go for a blind Rage Fist. But they actually full send an Ice Punch. We get the Poison Sting farm down, but now we have a slight energy lead, so we can connect with an Aqua Tail on the Steelix, and we just have to hope that whatever is in the back is not a hard answer to Quagsire with 0 shields, and it is not. It is a Mandibuzz, and Mandibuzz with no shields left in play will be met with a super effective Stone Edge. This will do massive damage. It puts them into the yellow health range, and can we get to a second Stone Edge before they get to back-to-back moves? And the answer is yes. They're currently 3 air slashes away from another aerial ace, so I'm going to overfarm as much as I can, going for 4 more mud shots, picking up the knockout now with the Stone Edge. It does pick up the knockout. Back in comes the Steelix. Can we make it to an Aqua Tail? No. And I'm worried if this is a Psychic Fangs, they'll be able to farm me down before I get there. So I'm going to instantly pivot into my Drapion. Can I also make it to an Aqua Tail? I can, and they're not quite at the charge move. They're 1 away. So if this doesn't pick up the knockout, I can come back in with the Quagsire. But it does pick up the knockout, and we are able to take that win. Into next match, another good lead. We've got Shadow Quagsire into Stunfisk. They safe switch into a Dragonair, and they are instantly met with the Shadow Scizor. Shadow Scizor is able to barely outpace, make it to the Night Slash. Night Slash, it's only neutral and non-stab, but it picks up the knockout. Shadow on Shadow, that is incredible. And my opponent has just instantly given me back switch. Back in comes the Stunfisk. I'm going to try and at least force them to throw energy by farming up to the Trailblaze, and that's exactly what's going to happen. But then I decide, you know what, maybe this was a bait out of the Shadow Scizor, and so I'm going to overfarm here, go for the Trailblaze on the Stampede. At this point, I will just let this go if they let this go, and they do let it go. So I'm fine with just sacrificing the Scizor, coming back in with the Quagsire, knowing that they're energy dry. But instead, I'm going to come in with the Drapion, anticipating my opponent to instantly pivot. That allows me to make it to the crunch before the opponent gets to an air cutter. I would be able to outpace either way, but having that extra Poison Sting in is nice. My opponent will connect with an air cutter, not enough to pick up the knockout there. Can I make it to another crunch? I can. That is absolutely massive. And if they shield this, they just lose the game because I can make it to a Stone Edge and then Quagsire wipes. But they actually no shield, knowing that's their win con. And it connects, and we are able to take that win. Into next match, neutral lead, we've got Shadow Quagsire into Shadow Dusclops. Now, Dusclops does have a pacing advantage, so I go for the Shadow Punch catch onto my Drapion, and I am instantly punished by a Tinkaton in the back. Now, this is a really bad matchup for the Drapion because Poison Stings are resisted, Crunch is resisted, Aqua Tail is non-stab, and it takes 3 of them to pick up the knockout, plus Poison Stings in order to pick up the knockout on the Tinkaton, and that's exactly what you're going to see here. So I'm going to go for Aqua Tail number 2. Look at that, just out of range of Aqua Tail number 3, which is really unfortunate. It looks like my opponent has a decent IV Tinkaton. Third one does connect, but that puts them pretty low, and I'm thinking that's 5 Poison Sting range. So I'm actually going to commit the shield here. They're energy dry, and now, because they were slow on the switch, I actually get the full Poison Sting farm down. And now, what are they going to come back in with? Are they going to come in with their lead, or no, they're not. They're going to come in with a Golisopod. Golisopod now will be met with a crunch. This is massive neutral damage. The opponent commits the shield, so winning switch, but at what cost? I don't really have a good answer to Golisopod up energy here. Shadow Scizor has resisted bullet punches and it gets outpaced in this matchup, so we're in a pretty awkward situation, but I see a win con, and that win con is over farming and banking almost 2 Night Slashes for the Dusclops later in the match. There's a bug flying around me if you can't tell. I end up going for the catch onto my Quagsire. I kind of get it, and now I'm able to make it to the Stone Edge, bait with an Aqua Tail. Can I? Or no, I'm not. The opponent pivoted into their Dusclops. Sorry, I'm literally not paying attention. But that allows me to make it to a second Aqua Tail. They let both of those go. Can we get to a third Aqua Tail? Not before the opponent gets to a charge move, but I can live a Shadow Punch from this range on my Scizor. My Scizor is still very healthy. It's only taken resisted fast moves. If I can live this, I can come out with back-to-back Night Slashes for the Golisopod, but I'm not sure one Night Slash will pick up a knockout here, so instead I'm going to go for a Trailblaze first, boosting my attack so that if they shield that, I can then connect with a Night Slash, and now that this is a boosted Night Slash plus an extra Bullet Punch through, it does pick up the knockout on the Golisopod, and we are able to take the win. Into next match, we've got pretty decent lead. We've got Shadow Quagsire into Tentacruel. Now, of course, their Poison Stings are resisted in this matchup, and our Mud Shots are super effective. However, they have neutral Scalds, and we have neutral Stone Edge, but they do have a slight pacing advantage. They make it to Scald number 1. I'm over farming here. Now I'm going to go for the Stone Edge. This will hit for massive neutral damage, but it won't be enough to pick up the knockout. It puts them in the red, and they would make it to a second charge move. So I'm forced to throw the Aqua Tail on the CMP tie. This will be enough to pick up the knockout on the Tentacruel. What are they going to come in with? They're going to come in with a Marowak. Now, I have to kind of just stay in here because I need to chip with an Aqua Tail, and I can't have this aligned against my Drapion. So just forced to stay in. Now I'm going to come in with the Shadow Scizor, where bullet punches are neutral. I have super effective Trailblaze, but I don't think I'm even going to need it. I think I can just go straight Night Slash in this matchup because they will start adding up. However, my opponent has such an energy lead that they're able to make it to 2 Bone Clubs before I even make it to my first charge move. That said, they do throw an alignment, allowing an entire Bullet Punch in for free, allowing me to get the full farm down. In comes a Dedenne. Dedenne now will be met with the Trailblaze. This is neutral damage. They tried to no-shield calling a blind Night Slash, but I did not go for it, and now in comes the Drapion. Drapion has a pacing advantage in this matchup, so all I have to do is make it to back-to-back Aqua Tails before my opponent can make it to back-to-back Parabolic charges, and it's straight 5 to Parabolic Charge, whereas it's straight 4 to Aqua Tail. So I'm able to outpace, make it to Aqua Tail number 2, and with no shields left in play, this will pick up the knockout, and we are able to take that win. Into the next match, we've got Shadow Quagsire into Stunfisk again. This Pokemon was absolutely everywhere on the lead, which is why I started running Shadow Quagsire. They end up pivoting into a Drifblim, and now Drifblim will be met with the Shadow Drapion. Drapion will connect with a super effective crunch. The opponent does commit the shield. They want to get that Icy Wind off first, but I'm just going to match shields in this matchup because I know I can always win it. Stab Shadow Crunch is just way too much damage to a Shadow Drifblim. And here it comes. This is 1 times debuff, but it does not matter. It picks up the knockout. In comes the Stunfisk. I'm going to overfarm slightly here, going for the Aqua Tail before they're able to get off their charge move, trying to throw on the CMP tie so that they'd be energy dry when my Quagsire came back in, but instead my opponent has other plans. They're going to overfarm significantly, allow me to connect with 2 charge moves, probably bank all of this energy, and then pick up the knockout with a Mud Bomb. They've got pretty much 3 Mud Bombs loaded at this point. But it does not matter because I can just come in with the Quagsire, eat that damage, but in the back is a Golisopod. Now Golisopod, like we have said in the past, has a pacing advantage when they are up energy, which is really unfortunate here because I'm forced to just go for a Night Slash, knowing that this just forces my opponent to throw their energy pretty much as soon as they get it. They overfarm perfectly, throwing right before I make it to Night Slash number 2. This for sure will pick up the knockout on the Glassy Scizor, but now in comes Quagsire, and because they're forced to throw pretty much right away, I'm able to get to a Stone Edge. This is super effective damage. It picks up the knockout on the Golisopod, but that back in comes the Stunfisk, and they have 2 Mud Bombs here. Can I live 2 Mud Bombs from this range? It's going to be close. 1 Mud Bomb connects. These Thunder Shocks are adding up. Can I live 1 more Mud Bomb to make it to the Aqua Tail? And the answer is yes, living on 1 HP. So redeeming ourselves from that last matchup where the Stunfisk lived on 1 HP. And we are able to take that win. But yeah, that is the triple single weakness team. This team honestly shocked me. It was, I mean, it's really, really glassy. So you have to be aware of your energy and counting and your win con and when to switch and all that stuff. But if you can master a team like this, it's really, really strong in the sense that you're not in a lot of type negative matchups, and being in a lot of type neutral matchups where your Pokemon shine, like Scizor and Drapion especially, they shine in type neutral matchups because they just hit so hard, and they've got great pacing. So and even Quagsire too, its typing can kind of offer some core breaking potential as well, especially with that Stone Edge coverage, as we've seen in these matchups. When all shields are down, those Stone Edges, they land and they do massive damage. But yeah, that's going to be it for me from this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, peace.